The 14,700-ton nuclear-powered Belgorod submarine, the world's biggest submarine built in 40 years, and only second in size to the prestigious Typhoon class, was integrated into the Russian Navy in July. The location of the massive underwater vessel was not disclosed at the time. Based on the latest reports, Belgorod will conduct its first quest in the Arctic Ocean, which will include the first-ever trial of Russia's game-changing doomsday device, the Poseidon Unmanned Underwater Vehicle, or UUV. On September 28th this year, an Italian daily paper reported that a recent NATO secret intelligence report highlighted worries about Belgorod's deployment in Arctic waters. Here's what it said. Based on the newspaper, the warning stems from a NATO intelligence report that was recently sent to the most important Allied commands. The report is about the movements of the Belgorod nuclear submarine, which went into service in July. Now she's back in the Arctic seas, and it's feared that her mission is to put the super-torpedo Poseidon, dubbed the weapon of the apocalypse, to the test for the first time. A little more about this submarine. The Belgorod Special Purpose Submarine is a large, customized one for specific use and was built from the hull of an unfinished Oscar II cruise missile submarine. The submarine's hull is approximately 184 meters, or 604 feet long, with a displacement of up to 30,000 tons, but only when it's submerged. The submarine's unique construction history and enormous costs make replication impossible. According to H.I. Sutton, an influential American naval warfare expert, Belgorod will be crewed by Russian Navy sailors, but managed by GUGI, the covert main directorate deep sea research organization. Sutton also mentions in his article that the submarine has most likely been extensively modified and may now include a few technological advances. Regardless, it is a submarine from an earlier generation and is probably to be less secretive than the newest generation. What's more, the submarine is said to travel at around 60 kilometers per hour and can supposedly stay underwater for up to 3 whole months without returning to the surface. Its propellers are said to have been designed to avoid sonar. As per Sutton's analysis, the Belgorod is intended to serve 2 roles. One, as a host submarine, or mothership to small, nuclear-powered submarines that can dive deep, and the second, as a nuclear strike and deterrence vessel. Belgorod will bring 6 nuclear-tipped Poseidon UUVs to carry out a nuclear strike. Now, on to the UUV, Poseidon Underwater Unmanned Vehicle. The Poseidon UUV is one of 6 tactical weapons, and are also known as super weapons, revealed by Russian President Vladimir Putin during a speech at the Manege Central Exhibition Hall close to the Kremlin in 2018. The Sarmat Intercontinental Ballistic Missile, or the ICBM, Avant-Garde Hypersonic Glide Vehicle, or HGV, Borovestnik Cruise Missile, Kinjal Air-Launched Hypersonic Missile, and Sirkon Ship-Launched Hypersonic Missile are among the other super weapons. Poseidon is possibly the most game-changing super weapon in Russia's arsenal, as it has the potential to add another element to nuclear deterrence. It is referred to as an intercontinental, nuclear-powered, nuclear-armed autonomous torpedo. The weapon's speed is expected to be roughly 70 knots, which is faster than any existing torpedoes, and possibly even 108 knots, making it uncatchable. Its operating depth is approximately 1,000 meters, or 3,300 feet, making it also elusive. The Poseidon UUV, which is powered by a nuclear reactor, has an endless range of operational flexibility in terms of launch and target locations. It is also capable of being launched from beneath the ice caps. It is an ingenious method of nuclear deterrence. Poseidon symbolizes a very clever nuclear deterrence approach imagined by Russian military strategists. Russians have long desired to avoid the American ballistic missile defense systems implemented in Europe, thereby generating a strategic imbalance in Russia's favor. As a result, the ability to deploy nuclear weapons underwater allows the Russian military to avoid detection by the U.S. Ballistic Missile Defense, or the BMD. To boost its longevity, Poseidon is said to be capable of executing 3-dimensional evasive maneuvers. Besides that, the U.S. has a network of infrared-equipped satellites to identify and monitor Russian intercontinental ballistic missiles. The ignition of the missile engine creates extreme heat in the air, producing a temperature difference against the cold background that satellites overhead can detect. Instead, satellites can't see what takes place in the ocean's darkest recesses. What's more, Poseidon is said to be designed to transmit very little heat and travel quietly. The Poseidon, armed with a 2-megaton nuclear warhead, can destroy aircraft carrier strike groups, also called CSG, and enemy infrastructure in coastal regions. It'll almost certainly serve in the Pacific Fleet, posing a threat to U.S. naval bases on the West Coast and key cities such as Los Angeles. Russia plans to deploy approximately 30 Poseidon UUVs. Meanwhile, Putin is getting desperate as Ukrainians break through. The K-329 Belgorod submarine, which is thought to be hauling the Poseidon torpedo drone, is assumed to be on its way to the Arctic, where it could test the device near the Kara Sea. Meanwhile, a train operated by the Russian Defense Ministry's Nuclear Munitions Division was spotted in central Russia, apparently bound for Ukraine, in what one defense expert believed was a signal to Western powers. Vladimir Putin and the Kremlin have increased their nuclear threats as their hopeless invasion of Ukraine crumbles, with Ukrainian forces liberating swaths of territory in the east and south amidst Russia's desperate attempt to annex them. So when will it be deployed? The torpedoes are still being developed, according to Hans Christensen, director of the Nuclear Information Project at the Federation of American Scientists. He believes that combat deployment of Poseidons will be possible no sooner than the second half of this decade. According to CNN, they will start operating with the Russian Navy no earlier than 2027, based on an April report by the Congressional Research Service, but we don't know yet. Here are some myths about Poseidon. Perhaps there has been a great deal of speculation because there is so little known about the weapon, and because it is a new category of weapon, there is no precedent system from which to draw interpretations. This adds to widespread misunderstandings. Even so, the situation has been monitored for a long time, and we have narrowed down many details. The system is not a direct development of the 1950s unbuilt T-15 megatorpedo. Some Russian planners expected submarines to carry this weapon to attack ports. It had a nuclear warhead, but standard propulsion, so it had a limited range. Although the two are alike in scale and armament, they are divided by both years and doctrine. Poseidon is most certainly a weapon. Despite its incredible range, it is not a drone in the same way that other unmanned underwater vehicles are. There is no evidence of buoyancy control or surveillance systems, indicating that it is not an intelligence asset. Another popular myth holds that it is supercavitation, similar to the famed VA-111 Shkval torpedo. This would permit it to travel at speeds of over 100 knots. To reduce friction, supercavitation works by forming bubbles at the nose and then cruising inside the bubble. These weapons necessitate rocket propulsion as well as extra-large control surfaces that must be located from outside the bubble. Poseidon possesses none of these. It is also intended to be transported by submarine in a sealed tube. These submarines are extremely expensive and represent a significant investment for the Russian Navy. This implies that it is not intended to be deployed forward as a mine, ready to blow up in an enemy port. Initial Russian news reports of a 100 megaton tsunami bomb and/or a cobalt-salted fallout bomb appear to be untrustworthy. More recent estimates put the figure at 2 megatons. The nuclear device could be the variable power type. Poseidon's time is nearing. Poseidon is an entirely new type of weapon. It will reshape both Russian and Western naval planning, resulting in new prerequisites and counter-weapons. A weapon that cannot be neutralized by anti-missile defenses. If we live through this one, it's going to be a major factor in future nuclear tensions. But we're not quite there yet. As of today, none of the nuclear subs capable of transporting it are operational. Sarov, a test submarine capable of carrying a single round, is currently in service. Belgorod, another ship, has yet to be launched. It is possible that Russia, if desperate enough, will attempt to launch. However, it is currently nowhere near the level of threat posed by traditional submarine-launched missiles. The day of Poseidon will come. And that's all for today, folks. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up, subscribe, and comment on what you thought of it down below. See you at the next one.